What you know, Alibis? Welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. I'm Gigi. It's Saturday, September 27th. Hope you guys are having a good day so far. This is episode 1 of possibly 2 that I hope to get out today. Later this evening, I'm hoping to read the decision by Judge Everett denying Donna Adelson her new trial. So look for that later on. For this episode, we are going to go through a few things regarding the David and Celeste Rivas Hernandez case. Nothing is new from law enforcement, which I get because they are trying to protect the integrity of this investigation and make sure they get it right. It's frustrating for us who want answers, but in the end, when and if charges are filed, we want those to stick and we want justice for Celeste. A few things we're going to discuss: the Tesla and what potential evidence that could have given investigators regarding who loaded that body in the front trunk area of the car. Also, we're going to go over the stages of decomposition because the medical examiner said she was in an advanced stage of decomposition. I will give a trigger warning before that begins so you can fast forward if you're squeamish to stuff like that. Then we're going to go over some different things I found researching this week. Statements from David's friends who are aware of Celeste, but very much unaware of her age, and some other things before we wrap it up. Also, I want to apologize for the lack of engaging graphics on the YouTube channel. I am a one-woman show, and there are not enough hours in the day for me to add 2 more doing graphics that are specific to each episode. I wish I had more time because I have a lot of really fun ideas I would love to try out, but right now it's just not possible. So I'm sorry you're watching the same slideshows over and over. Maybe one day I can streamline some things a little better. So having said all that, let's jump in. Earlier this week, Celeste's body was released to her family. So what has not happened in this case so far? Her death has not been ruled a homicide. The cause of death is listed as deferred pending toxicology, which is going to be huge and potentially a big game changer in the trajectory of this investigation if it were to come back that she had substances in her system that could have killed her. Also, there has been no suspect or person of interest named publicly and no arrests. I know a lot of us are shocked they haven't gotten David for, at minimum, the inappropriate relationship that he allegedly and seemingly had with Celeste. But at the same time, as they're building their case, one of the very first things they did was get search warrants for electronics, cell phone communication, iCloud accounts, and whatever else they would need to look into this. That takes time. Sometimes it can take a week or 2 to get those returns back. Then you run it through a program like Celebrate, and then the human eyes has to do the work from there for the most part. They have to go through what I'm sure is an ungodly amount of inboxes, text messages, call data. Just all that is going to be a little time consuming. Another thing we don't know is, did they find any blood evidence in the house during the search warrant? Now, we know the medical examiner said she was in a stage of advanced decomposition, but we were not given a time frame of when they estimated the death to have occurred versus when she was found. There are a lot of variables there that could affect the condition of the body. For example, and it's not a pleasant thought, but if she were kept somewhere cold, say a refrigerator or a freezer, it's very possible she had been dead a lot longer than what her body revealed when it was found and it was autopsied. Now, we know that David left for tour in August and that he had not been back in LA for a month prior to her body being found. I'm sure investigators are looking to see if at any point during this tour, maybe he had a break and jetted back to LA for a day or 2. I was looking at his tour schedule, and this is just me doing research and looking for anything I can find. He had a show on August 30th. The next date was September 2nd for that tour. And that's 2 solid days, excluding travel days, that he could have been back in LA. And I'm sure at this point, police know whether or not he truly was gone for a month or did he jet back home. Just in my random thoughts, trying to figure out scenarios that would have led to her body being found in a Tesla. Obviously, number one, and the one I think everybody puts first, is that the possibility David did something to her. Now, just to play the devil's advocate here, and I'm not saying whether or not he's innocent or guilty because we don't know right now, you would have to be really stupid to kill your underage alleged girlfriend and put her in or around your house or inside that Tesla and then go on tour. I'm sure there were people staying there after he left. And is it possible he did something to her? Somebody found her, panicked, and put her in the car that is registered to David directly on a public street in LA? Who knows? The other possibility is, did somebody who was staying at the house do something to Celeste while he was on tour and then panic and put the body on a public street in his car? The third option, obviously, what we're waiting on are the toxicology reports. If that comes back negative, then you really have one other option to look at. It is just not going to be common for a 14-year-old girl to drop over dead. So we are going to get into the stages of decomposition. So if you are squeamish, go ahead and fast forward. Again, I will put that timestamp down in the description of when you can join us again. What is the stages of decomposition and how long does each stage take? It depends on a lot of factors, such as the temperature the body has been kept in. Was it inside? Was it outside? Is the outside environment hot and humid? Is it cool and dry? Is it desert? The size of the body, the cause of death, and whether or not the body is buried, exposed, or contained can all affect the rate of decomposition. For example, in 50-degree temperatures, it could take months for soft tissue to decompose. When I worked at the morgue, we had a body in the back corner that was a John Doe, and it took a very long time for that body to start liquefying and going through decomposition to where, had that body not been in that refrigerator, it would have happened way before it started. Now, we know that law enforcement was initially alerted to a foul smell coming from that car in the impound lot. When I worked in the morgue, I had a lot of people ask me, have you ever smelled a decomposing body and what does it smell like? The answer is yes, several. And the smell, if I had to describe it, and there's really no way to describe it, it is a smell that you just don't forget and you can literally smell without smelling it in person. But if you take the smell of rotting eggs and you amplify that by 1,000, that is pretty much the closest I could come to verbally telling you what a decomposing body smells like. It is horrible. It is foul. It is nauseating. And thank goodness for the bubblegum spray I used to spray in my mask when I was at work. What are the stages of decomposition? The first stage is the fresh stage or the self-digestion phase. Our body's enzymes start to break down the cells in our body. The next stage is the bloat stage, which is around 2 to 6 days after death. Bacteria in the body produces gases that causes the body to swell, sometimes up to double the original size. The skin often begins to turn a greenish color and can also have marbling. You have fluid leakage and you start to smell that really strong odor of decomposition. Insect activity begins. The next stage is the active decay stage. That is about 5 to 10 days after death. You have tissue breakdown. The insect activity is increased, the tissues begin to liquefy, and complex molecules break down, and that reduces the body mass significantly. For Celeste, the medical examiner said her remains weighed about 70 pounds. There has been some conflicting reports of whether or not her body was dismembered. One thing to point out is neither law enforcement or the medical examiner said she was found dismembered. Still in that active decaying stage 5 to 11 days after death, there is more leakage of body fluids, there is skin slippage, and hair loss. This is the time where the decomposition odor is at its peak. And this has been described as the most messy part of decomposition. Advanced decay is around 10 to 25 days after death. The decomposition begins to slow down and only tougher parts of the body are left, such as bones, nails, and cartilage. That odor begins to subside. The last stage, which is not relevant here, but it is the skeletonization of your body. That can take weeks to years, depending on where the body is. If it's out in the open, in a hot environment, it could be a lot quicker. If it is buried, it can take years. So welcome back to those of you who are a little squeamish. We are going to jump into the 2023 Tesla Model X that David owned and the car that she was found in. These cars have 8 or 9 different cameras depending on the hardware version the car has. There is a front camera that's located at the top of the windshield. This gives a panoramic view. The rear view camera is positioned above the license plate. That gives a view of about 50 meters behind the car. There are cameras on each fender that points towards the back of the vehicle at a 45-degree angle. There is also a cabin camera that records the inside of the car that is located above the rear view mirror. Teslas have something called Sentry Mode. This is parked security monitoring. It will trigger a recording while events are detected, and then it saves these clips to a USB. That USB is found in the front dash of the car. Saved clips stay until you manually delete them. The unsaved clips can be overwritten as space is needed. For example, if the car detects a critical event, that footage is automatically stored. Now, as far as the unsaved clips, how long do they last? It depends on what settings you have enabled. Also, it depends on the storage capacity of the USB or flash drive you have plugged in. The front camera, along with others, records to the drive when inserted. By default, Tesla keeps a rolling hour of footage that will overwrite itself as space is needed. There is a setting for Sentry Mode for the outside. If the setting is enabled, cameras do not continuously record. Instead, they watch for motions or threats. And when that is triggered, such as someone walking near the car, somebody touches it or bumps into the car, Tesla saves a clip about 10 minutes long from that event. Those clips are permanent until they are manually deleted, meaning they don't overwrite like that rolling buffer. I did watch a video on YouTube of somebody demonstrating this for us. First off, you have pretty much a 360-degree view of that car. He was demonstrating how to view the Sentry Mode clips. His car, which was his daily driver, had clips stored from as far back as 3 months prior to him making that video. You can turn off locations in the settings of Sentry Mode, like your home, your work, or a list of favorite places. If you have that enabled, it would not record any events. Also, Sentry Mode requires your battery to be at least 20% charged, but if the battery falls below 20%, that Sentry Mode turns off. So there's just a lot of variables at play of whether or not anything of evidentiary value was captured. But let's just say Sentry Mode was enabled. Whoever loaded her body into that front trunk, they are going to be seen loud and clear on these clips. On the other hand, if this happened at the home and that was listed as a place not to record, you would not have that clip. So I'm very interested to see if they found anything from the recordings on the Tesla. Now, back in 2024, Celeste was reported missing 4 times. By the way, when she went missing for the last time, she was in the 7th grade, y'all. 7th grade. The homeowner of the property David was renting said he did install security cameras at entry points, in the backyard, and on the street. He said nobody can come or go from that house without being seen. He does not personally have access to the footage. Instead, he gives tenants the information for the security company so that they can create an account to access the system. Law enforcement is working to put together her history. A law enforcement source told TMZ that Celeste had a very troubled home life. Back in March of last year, her sister went to a business near the school bus stop to look at their surveillance to see if she could see Celeste and try and retrace her steps at one point when she had gone missing. TMZ posted that surveillance video, and I will link that in the description. I did watch it, and she alternates from walking to doing a little light jog down the road. The date this was recorded, March 19th of 2024, and she was near her house. Her middle school science teacher is speaking out and told TMZ she had run away, he knew, in January of last year. During that time, she was eventually located in the Hollywood Hills, which we know is the area where David's rental home was. Police did find her and take her home. He says the first time she went missing was after meeting David, and he said the two met online. I've read reports they could have started communicating as early as when she was 12 years old. He also said she was known to have several fake IDs. Friends of David's told TMZ they thought Celeste was his girlfriend, and they were shocked to find out she was only 14 years old. The two of them were seen at parties and just hanging out with groups of people. They would also see her at places where she clearly would have needed a fake ID to get in. Some friends thought she was a college student at USC and around 19 years old, and that is how she presented herself to them. Her brother told local media that his family was aware of her relationship with David and that he would pick her up in the same Tesla her body would eventually be found in. I have tons of questions, but out of respect for a grieving family, I'm going to move on. A source told the Daily Mail Celeste did keep in touch with friends through text messages and phone calls after she went missing the last time. But those calls and texts completely stopped in late July or early August. It looks like he has moved out of the Hollywood Hills home. I saw some photos of two men wearing masks that seemed to be providing security. One was in a bulletproof vest with a gold badge on the front of his shirt. A law enforcement spokesperson said the investigation is ongoing, but there were no updates. They said we have a lot of resources dedicated to bringing it to a conclusion, but to go beyond what's already been made public would be inappropriate. When asked if David was cooperating with the investigation, they declined to comment, although his manager has said previously David was. How much money was David making? He was 17 when he signed his first record deal back in September of 2022, and that deal paid him $3 million in advance with the possibility to earn up to $6 million depending on how well things went. I spoke to an attorney that said possible charges David could be facing if the inappropriate relationship is confirmed, not limited to trafficking, statutory sexual assault, and kidnapping, and maybe more. Either way, if he is charged with these crimes and convicted, he is facing a lot of time in prison. And that is aside from any potential charges that could come from her death. Lastly, Celeste's family has set up a GoFundMe. The message on the page reads, as many of you know, Celeste Rivas Hernandez has been identified as the body found last week. She was a beloved daughter, sister, cousin, and friend. Her family is heartbroken and devastated by this tragic loss. Any funds you are able to donate are greatly appreciated, and it is signed the Rivas Hernandez family. If anything updates in the case, I will likely do a YouTube short first. So it's a good reminder, if you're not subscribed on YouTube, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. The easiest way you can support this podcast is just by simply hitting the like button. It pushes my channel out to people who may not know I'm on here. And if you want notifications of when I post new content, just click that little bell icon. That is it for now. Hope you guys have a good rest of your afternoon, and we will see you soon.